welcome back to the podcast. You are listening to Let It Out with me. I'm your host, Katie Dalebout, and I have been hosting this podcast since 2013. It's the greatest thing I've ever done. I usually interview really fascinating, creative people and talk to them for a very long time. But today, I'm the one in the hot seat. I'm the one being interviewed by my fascinating friend, Sacha Jones, who has been on the podcast before. We recorded this just about a week ago in her apartment in the East Village. You'll hear all about that. We decided maybe a couple years ago that every year on my birthday week, I would catch up with you guys on an episode where I would be the one talking more, doing more of the talking. Although I talk a lot in the interviews. Anyway, I talk a lot in this episode, so I'll just leave it there. I'll talk to you at the end. I hope you like this episode. I announced something that I've been working really hard on for the last couple months and just give a lot of life updates. I hope you like it. Bye. This episode is brought to you in part by something I use and love called Acuity Scheduling. It's like a personal assistant for your schedule, only better. With Acuity Scheduling, people can quickly view your calendar in real time and from your availability, select the date and time that works best for them to meet with you. They can even pay in advance if they're booking a session with you, and they can cancel or reschedule on their own without having to clog your inbox. With Acuity, you can instantly schedule with real-time availability, meaning no double bookings and no more wasted time. You can set up automatic confirmations and reminders, and what I love most is that you can customize the colors and add your logo. Everything looks super sharp. To try it out, you can get an extended 45-day trial when you sign up totally for free at acuityscheduling.com/letitout. To get that 45-day free trial, go to acuityscheduling/letitout. This week's episode is supported by something called Fit Fab Fun. It's a seasonal subscription box with full-size beauty, fitness, fashion, and lifestyle products. It retails for $49.99, but has a value for over $200. I don't even know how they do that, but that's amazing. And if you use the coupon code Let It Out, that's Let It Out, you can get $10 off your first box, which you'll find at www.fitfabfun.com. I think it's a really interesting concept. It's really cool. This Fit Fab Fun box feels like Christmas 4 times a year when it comes in the mail, and the products include everything from makeup to candles, accessories, self-care products like a massage roller, travel products, beauty finds. It's really great, and you can customize the products, add on what you want each season. It's different and it's a surprise. And the thing that I really love is the membership also includes access to Fit Fab Fun TV, which has a variety of workouts and meditations that you can do anywhere. And I love that because I love to do workout videos at home. I think it's so much fun, and I really like Fit Fab Fun, and I think you guys will too. Just check it out. Again, you can get $10 off your first box by using the code Let It Out at checkout. That's Let It Out. And the items include everything from Tarte Makeup, which is a natural makeup line I like, Juice Beauty, which you know I also really love. There's so many great things in there. It's really fun, and I think you guys will really like it. Thanks, Fit Fab Fun. Okay, so can we start by telling us what's in the tea that we're drinking?
All right, well, it's one of my random throw together blends, but I love that. There is ashwagandha, turmeric, black pepper, and schisandra berries, and I steeped that for about an hour and a half with a very slow simmer, and then I added red clover and peppermint, and it's very random.
I taste the peppermint,
but loads of red clover is really nutritious.
What's red clover? I've never heard of red clover, or I don't know any of the benefits.
Red clover is just very nutritious and nourishing, and it grows everywhere. It's like a weed. And,
cool.
You know, weeds tend to be, they grow so crazily that they're going to be good for you.
Cool.
So that they're so, I don't know, they win. You don't win.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get rid of red clover or any weeds like that, they're always going to be the winners. So I like to think of that as their strength,
Yeah.
It's like
Did you get your herbs at Mountain Rose Herbs or at Flower Power in our neighborhood?
mostly I buy them from Mountain Rose Herbs, but they sell Mountain Rose products at the food co-op, so I mostly buy them there.
Cool.
The prices are pretty much the same as buying them online without the shipping.
I've been going to Flower Power a lot.
I love Flower Power too. I do love it.
It's
quite
the
a little bit more
things.
expensive.
Is it?
So if I'm buying small quantities, I'll go to Flower Power.
Yeah, I'm always buying small
Yeah.
quantities.
And it's such a lovely shop, and I do like
just
to
love
support
going
it.
in there, and I like to get on the ladder, and I like to
I
do
know.
the things. And everyone working there kind of looks like Stevie Nicks, like just a little bit. Do you notice that? Like they might all be witches. And speaking of watching movies on planes, I meant to tell you this. So this is maybe an interesting thing hopefully this is interesting for the podcast. And if anyone follows me on Instagram, they already know this. The flight, I took the red eye back from LA in March. And I'd never seen the movie Practical Magic.
I heard you talking about it. I have seen it, but I don't really remember it. But it's like
I'm obsessed with this movie.
You made me want to watch it again. For sure.
Let's watch it together. Let's watch it this summer together. It was so good. I just sat there. It was like, okay, so before we started recording, Sasha was telling me that she watched When Harry Met Sally, another favorite movie. My roommate in college and I broke the DVD of it because we watched it so often. It's her favorite movie.
Oh, wow.
Which is the thing you can do with the
I feel
DVD.
like it should be on VHS, though, somehow. Not DVD.
It should be. It should be. Anyway, it's such a good movie, and we were talking about before we started recording how it really stands the test of time. So if you haven't watched it, or even if you have, watch it again.
Yeah.
And Practical Magic was a delight. I was talking about it like over lunch with Lacey Phillips mentioned it. Like we had lunch when she was in town, and she was, I don't even know. Oh, she was doing a road trip like up through like Salem and like up in like Massachusetts.
Which country?
Yeah, country. Yeah. And so she mentioned it because I guess the author, I think it's Alice Hoffman, who wrote the book Practical Magic, has a new novel out.
Okay.
That Carolina, our friend, soon to be podcast guest, she said was really good. And so I was like, well, I should watch this movie first. And I loved it. It was just such a delight.
Is it
was
Aidan
just
Quinn?
I don't know. It's Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman, our sisters.
I feel like the guy is Aidan Quinn, who I love.
Probably. He's very cute.
Yeah.
And then it was weird because the next night was the Oscars.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe it was that night. Yeah, it was that night while I was in the air. And then I was like posting all about it, and some lovely listener sent me a video, and it was Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock finding each other on the red carpet at the Oscars and being like, we were great sisters, and they were talking about it, and they hadn't seen each other in like years, and weirdly it was like the night I was watching it on a plane.
That's so sweet.
Isn't that cool?
I
It felt very
that.
magical, and it just like put me in such a good mood. And then I was listening to so much of the soundtrack, like it's really good, and it's like that perfect portion of the 90s where like I just loved their style, and like lots of chokers and bangs, and
I have to watch it again.
Yeah, it was a delight.
So here we are on your almost birthday annual episode, and you're almost 1 year living in New York.
I know, it's so weird. This time last year, we recorded this, we were just talking before this where we both were. I was very sick. We'll put the link to that episode in the show notes, so if people haven't heard it, they can go back. But I'm with my dear, dear friend and second mom, and multiple time. We should do another podcast episode with you where I interview you. I'd like to do that again this summer in person, because we've never recorded one in person.
No, never. This
is the first time. Wow. But anyway, last year we did this over Skype. You were at your house upstate. I was very sick, which people can hear in the episode. And this is a much upgraded version. We're sipping tea. We're looking at each other. It's great.
And you were really in an anticipating mood.
Right.
You were just like getting excited about moving to New York. We didn't really know what that was actually going to mean. And so that's like... I feel like that's a good place to kick off, really, is like, how do you feel different? Because I notice you as being a lot different.
Really?
And I'd love to hear like how you
Wait,
feel.
I want to hear yours.
Well, I've noticed it mostly in the podcasts.
Yeah?
And I must say,
they're in person?
I think it's partly in person, but I think it's more than that.
Yeah.
I think that you have really changed and
Yeah.
grown, and since I've known you especially,
Yeah.
like you've just blossomed and become more confident, and your conversations are deeper, and there's just a blossoming that's happened that I think, especially in the last year. Obviously it's happened as an organic process over the time that you've been running the podcast, but in the past year I have noticed you just like it's magical. It's like watching spring. It's like the magnolia tree, and you're just coming into your own, I would say. And
magic. That's been my word this year. I feel like I've been saying magical so much, and I want things to feel magical, and Nick will be like, what does that even mean? And I don't even really know, but I like the feeling of that word.
I think that's exactly it. I don't think you're supposed to exactly be able to describe what magical feels like.
Yeah, and that's what like New York for me has felt like. Yeah. And I can't really explain it. And it's funny that you say that, because I do feel like I feel like my entire 20s have been this, I say this all the time, but it's like a second adolescence that no one really tells you about, and you're just changing so quickly in your 20s. And now that I'm coming to the end of them, I feel like, I mean, I'm sure every decade's like that. I'm sure my 30s I'll change a ton more, but I think there's so many... this was such a big growth year for me, because I'd never lived out of the state that I grew up in.
Right.
And I knew it was going to be a big deal for me. It's not for everyone. Like, it's not a big deal for everyone. Like, my best friend, Katie, moved here right after college, and it was, it was a change, but I think because she did it so much younger, it was a totally different experience. And for me, I think it did grow me in ways that I wasn't expecting. Just like being not a drive from my family, being, having to navigate things and figure things out. And I've never been more sure that I made like the right choice than I have been with moving to New York.
What a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's weird, like, I do gratitude, like a lot of us do. And it's the first thing I always think about, or I write down, or that I appreciate lately is just, I always wanted to do this. Ever since you met me, like, I was always like, oh, it's so cool you live in New York. Wish I could. Like, I just, I did something that I've always wanted to do. And if I hadn't done, I would have always wondered. And I don't think New York is for everyone. I don't think everyone has to leave the state they grew up in. I don't think any of these things are for everyone. But for me, I had to do it.
Yeah.
I
think probably the greater message for other people would be like, what is your thing
that
you have to do, and do it. And it's
exactly. Maybe that's travel. Maybe that's a job thing. Maybe it's a relationship thing. But and for me, there were like of course, with anyone with like a big shift or transition or whatever, I'm sure there's obstacles. And I feel like I had a bunch. Like I am still in a relationship in Michigan. So like I went from being in person with someone to being in a long distance relationship. At the same time, like I had, friends, and I had my family, and I had, obviously like all the changes that come with just moving to a new place logistically, and then financially, like it's triple the cost.
Sure.
And going from having a car to not having a car, which ended up being my favorite part, I think, of moving is walking everywhere. And where we live, it's so easy to do that. It was such a great neighborhood to land. We live in the East Village. I just feel like this neighborhood, and that was kind of a magical thing about it too, is because this room that we're sitting in and your place is the place that I came the most in the last 5 years. So I feel like I knew this neighborhood the most of anywhere else. And I kind of said so many times to you, I was like, oh, it'll be so great. I'll never find a spot in the East Village. Like, there's no way I'll ever be able to live here. I'll definitely be in Brooklyn, and, and which would have been fine and would have been great. And, like, I'm sure it would have, and maybe someday it will. But this is where I really wanted to be, and this is where I first wanted to be, and where I wanted to land, because it would be most comfortable for me because I knew it even slightly.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I could kind of, like, move out from there and, like, know the rest of the city. And so it's just magical that I wrote that down, and that's what I, manifested.
Absolutely.
And that's like, it just all worked out in a way that back of, a year ago, I was calling you like, where should I live? And these are my options. And what do you think? And it worked out. And here I am.
Right. Well, do you think there are things that haven't been what you expected, in either positive or negative, like that you were expecting New York to be a certain way and then it has surprised you?
That's such a good question, because I feel like I've only thought about it in the positive.
Mm-hmm.
What has surprised me that...
But I mean, it could be either way, but you just weren't expecting it to be.
Okay, well, the positives are, and I haven't listened to our conversation from last year, but I'm sure this was a theme. I was terrified of...
the subway.
Yeah. And I'm so great at it now. Today I had to go to Greenpoint. I took the L to the G, and I'm just like, I'm figuring it out.
And the L and G are not easy trains, really.
Look at me.
You're so good.
I mean, you were a great teacher. Also, I have my phone.
Well, that's helpful too, but
yeah,
it's just,
I don't know how people moved to New York without phones. I don't know how you did it.
Well, they didn't exist, so it wasn't like I was like, I wish if I had a phone, it would be so much easier. You just
you
do
didn't
whatever.
even know what that was.
Exactly. But I think that I remember also I think I might have told you this, that when I first came here, me and my friends were like, well, we're never going to go on the subway. Because we were told that it was so dangerous and so scary. And the trains were different back then.
Yeah.
But we just were never going to. And then we realised that we would never be able to do anything. Yeah. So it's like, so then you go on a train because you're going to a party or whatever. And it's like, so I think...
And that's been good for me with the podcast, is hosting it in person.
Yeah, you've been everywhere, right?
Yeah, it that forces me to by myself go a lot of places, because when I'm going somewhere with friends, I'm usually with friends, and all of my friends have lived there longer than I have, or are just better with directions than I am. So when other people navigate, even when I'm with Nick, he always just navigates, even though he doesn't even live here, and I'm bad at paying attention.
Me too. I always follow. I'm a follower.
Right. So then it's good to do the podcast, because I always am by myself when I'm going to do that. So that's been a good thing, that wherever I've gone to, like really far away in Brooklyn, I've gone uptown, I've gone to the Upper West Side, I've gone really low downtown and Wall Street, and so that's been good for me. Like that was a good way to land here last summer, especially. Like I recorded so many, and I just said yes to, and that was the other thing. Like I just said yes to everything. That and now kind of where I am, like after the winter, coming off of saying yes to everything, I got really burnt out in March, and I also had a ton of travel in March, and we haven't seen each other a while, so this is a good catch up. But did I tell you I was in the hospital in March?
Did you have kidney stones or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again.
Oh gosh. Oh.
So that was like,
oh man.
Yeah. So that was like a weird bummer freak thing, and then last week, I was in Ready Care. I should be wearing a sling. I fell in the Denver airport, and I have a hairline fracture in my arm.
Oh my god!
It's actually okay, or it's actually not. It's a contusion, which is like a fancy word for an internal bruise.
Whoa!
But I think it's my body and being like I'm rushing. I'm doing too much at once, and I was saying yes to everything, which was really good and served me. But now I need to like not say yes to everything and have some white space is really what I'm craving. So I think moving to a new city, that was really good and smart for me, and maybe I'll get back into that season later. But right now, we were both talking about this too before we were recording, of both being in really busy time periods, and how to, like, maybe that'd be an interesting thing we could like just both kind of discuss, I guess, because we're both in these like, how do you have self-care during really busy times? Like, how do you take care of yourself?
It's a work in process for certain, because I know one of the things that I need most is good sleep and quality sleep and enough of it, and that's the thing that's most disturbed. Like I wake myself up with anxiety dreams. And,
we both did last week. We just bonded over that.
So I would say that it's definitely a work in process, but I do know that there are essentials that just have to be in place, and that's always yoga. There always must be yoga for me, and it's hydration and good nutrition, and you know that can vary and look different, but keeping those things in mind, in the forefront.
Yeah. And
also my husband is just, he's so sweet and so graceful and great generous and kind, that he's really helpful in that he just brings me down just by listening. And his response to things always makes me realize that more of it is my anxious mind than the reality of things.
Yeah.
And that is super helpful, and that's really a very essential thing to help me balance.
Yeah. I feel like we talked about this on your birthday. We had like the best night celebrating your birthday. How Mike and Nick, we have very similar temperaments, you and I.
Yeah.
And I think it's not a coincidence that I feel like Mike and Nick have similar temperaments.
Yeah.
We were even discussing that like our family situations of you and I are very similar and then very different from like theirs.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious and also makes sense.
Right.
You know, the people that we've found that are our people complement us in a way.
Yeah. But I think there's a part of that is about allowing it to happen, because I know when I first met Mike, and it's been a while now, we've been together for almost 14 years, but I wasn't always allowing him to be helpful to me in that way in the beginning, because I had been so used to being like, you're making a face, but that's yeah. So it took me a while to be able to say, okay, I can lean into this person, and just growing into accepting beautiful relationships. And that's,
How do you do that but not do that too much? Because I feel like, I don't know, I lean into him a lot, but then, okay, so we kind of had a thing last night where I feel things, so up and down, and he feels them more evenly. And my feeling things so deeply can like trump his, I'm trying to think of a different word, but yeah, like can overpower like him trying to tell me how he's feeling, because I don't know if this question is making sense without like saying all the specifics, but I don't know, I feel like it's like a balance of allowing help. This is two separate questions, I guess, but allowing the help and not relying on it too much, so I'm like okay with myself, which I am. Like I don't. He doesn't even live in the same city as me. Like I'm obviously still like very independent. I don't think we're in a codependent thing, but it's that balance of like I wish he was here right now because he would articulate this perfectly, and I'm struggling. But it's that balance of like how when I need help, just committing and being like, yep, I need help, instead of me resisting, and then him helping me anyway, and then just being like, yeah, I do, instead of him being like, let me help you, not in these exact words, and me being like, no, I got it, until I suddenly really don't, and then he really needs to swoop in, you know what I mean? Like, if I could just allow it from the beginning, I think it'd be easier for everybody.
I think you answered your own question.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit of it, is just trusting that it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
And leaning into the person that loves you and that you adore, and that's okay. That's part of it. As long as it's a reciprocal thing, and it's not that we're always asking for help and never wondering how they're doing, which I don't think either of us are doing that.
No. I heard something probably on a podcast about relationships where they were like, one person, if one person is down, speaking of, I think the man of the hour is going to walk in. When one person's down, both people can't be down. Like someone always has to pull up and I've had that before where it's like, okay, I can't be down too. I'm going to have to like get it together because I can tell that my partner isn't. Yeah. So it's like knowing that, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it just organically happens.
Yeah.
It really does, and it's a practice. And just a little bit on relationships, we just got back from Costa Rica, and I really felt like we needed to have that trip. It felt like, to do something nice before the busy season that I'm heading into, but also just for us to reconnect.
Yeah.
And I think that it's easy to think that we have such a great relationship and we communicate a lot, we see each other a lot and all that, but that you can go, it can be even better, and you can have even more, and there is not really like a limit to that. And I think, even at this age and just in this length of relationship, is still learning that it can still be more, and it can still be even more incredible if you allow that to happen. And sometimes that means going away for a few days, or sometimes it means just taking a few days at home and unplugging and stuff like that. But just to really look at each other in the eyes and to ask each other how you're doing, and just take walks and watch sunsets, and you know, and it's so beautiful, and I'm just filled with so much gratitude, and that it can just keep being beautiful, because at my age a lot of people I know are splitting up. You know, it's that sort of midlife crisis that a lot of couples are having. It doesn't have to be that way. You know, so
that's really inspiring and helpful to hear. And we kind of did a similar thing. So we went to Sedona in March, and just like a long weekend. But it was really nice to, every other time we've never really taken a vacation together that wasn't a wedding. We had a couple of weddings this year. So like we went to Hawaii.
You were at that age.
We were in Hawaii for 4 days, which is a long time, like 3.5. And then we, like 3 of those days had wedding things. So it wasn't like we had any time together, even though we were in this like tropical paradise. So that was, and then every other time we've taken trips together, it's been like he's here, I'm in Michigan, or like, so we have friends in all those places, and it was nice to be in a place where we didn't know anyone, so we like could only hang out with each other. And that was, I recommend that to people who are in relationships, like instead of going to visit friends, because we have gone to visit friends, which is lovely, but it's a different thing, because and I love a double date, and I love hanging out with a group of friends as much as the next guy, but it was special to like have all that time that was just us, because whenever we're in New York, I feel like we're doing something every night and we don't have much time together. So I want to do that more.
I agree. Usually our trips are going to England, and because for obvious reasons, and that we spend a lot of time, we sleep in a different bed every night, and we see a lot of friends and family, and it's beautiful, and I'd never want to give that up. But it's different. And to be able to just have this vacation, which I craved so hard and manifested it, and we made it happen, and it, oh my goodness, it's just one of the most healing things that I have received in a long time, and I felt healed on a really deep cellular level, and I recommend it to everyone in a relationship.
I'm so happy that it was as great as you wanted it to
even
be.
More so. Yeah, exactly.
And the photos were I loved seeing the photos. I felt like I was there a little bit.
Has New York changed you, or do you think like that?
It's so hard. Like I don't know. Do you ever feel change in yourself?
I'm not sure, and that was part of the question, in fact, I was going to get to, because it's interesting, because you record your conversations so frequently, and for yourself even could probably go back and study that, and for other people certainly, and for me just to have known you for this period of time, I have witnessed your change, but I don't think I could say myself, like from 23 to 27 that I could remember my changes. You're just suddenly in it. But
I feel like I know the podcast has changed. Obviously the topics have changed, the questions I ask, it was, when I started it was really like a wellness show, essentially. Like I was talking to health coaches, and I was talking to yoga teachers, and I was talking to, recipe developers and self-helpy people exclusively. And, those are peppered in now, but that's not the primary focus of the podcast anymore. It's much more diverse, which I love. And I was there's such a reflection of where I am in the moment, and what I care about in the moment, and they still are. And so it's cool that I have this, I grew up on the internet and these conversations, and what I was asked, that's why I really want to have you on again, because I know what I ask would be totally different. And we, a lot of it is when you have someone on again, I've talked about your story, and that will be in that one, and we don't need to do that again. But also the questions I ask, I know would be completely different. And there's a couple things that have stand the test of time. Like I still love talking about morning and evening routines. Like I think that's interesting, and I'm a nosy person. I feel like it is a question people like hearing. I like asking it. And other than that, everything else is kind of shifted and changed because of what I'm curious about. Back then I was asking, like, how many chia seeds do you eat?
Right.
Do you work out before or after your lemon water? And when do you... How much... And it was so granular because I was so granular, and now I don't care at all about what they're eating or, you know, what their wellness routines are, really. You know, that stuff's interesting sometimes, but I care more about creativity and what their work is and what they're excited about. And I like the conversation to just unfold like what we're doing right now. And I don't know, I'm learning a lot about interviewing, and I think I've become a student of interviewers that I like a lot more in the last year, and studying Terry Gross. I actually heard Terry Gross say something where she was being interviewed and someone asked her, you know, you don't really interview entrepreneurs very often. It's mostly artists, it's mostly, you know, musicians, actors, directors, comedians, people like that, and politicians, not so much, but a little bit. And she was like, it's hard to talk to entrepreneurs without it sounding like an ad or without it sounding like promoting. Yeah. And she's like, even when it's someone who wrote a book, like, yeah, they're promoting their book, but they're going to talk about the book, so it's a bit different. And she said she had some, like, she interviewed Steve Jobs, and she has done it, but she tries to focus Fresh Air away from that. And I thought that was really interesting because I was talking to entrepreneurs for a period of time almost exclusively, like a lot about business and a lot about productivity. And I, you know, I like those interviews. I think that I love the archive that I have, and I love that it's as robust, and I love that I've committed to something for 5 years weekly. I think that's my biggest thing I'm most proud of in my life. And I studied journalism, and I remember we had someone come in who worked at a newspaper, a daily newspaper, and he said, honestly, some of the newspapers that we put out are good and some are not good, and parts of it are good and parts of it are bad, but we do it every single day. So you're bound to get some good ones and you're bound to get some bad ones. And I feel like that with my podcast. You know, there are definitely episodes I like better than others. There are definitely episodes that I think have great moments in them, but the episode as a whole isn't as strong. There are episodes that I listen through and I'm like, that was great. I want them all to feel like that. But in general, I'm happy they all exist, and I'm never going to take the archive down, even though I kind of cringe at a few episodes and every season, but especially at the beginning, because of me, not because of the guests, but sometimes because of the guests' curation, maybe. But in the end, I'm happy they exist, and I'm also really happy about the trajectory of the podcast, and like I'm happy where it's gone and where it's going. I'm excited about the ones coming up that I've already recorded. I'm excited about the ones that are on my calendar to record throughout the summer. I just feel I have a lot of new ideas for the podcast that, you know, I want to do more mini-series within Let It Out. So I'm going through a huge change with Let It Out. Like something big, I'll tell you after, but something big is coming in August for everyone listening. And that's really exciting. I'm just kind of changing and switching up and like going to launch something totally different. And with that, it'll be like new, I'll say part of it, new things with the podcast. Like I want to do more roundtables where we talk, where I get you and someone else and we talk about a particular topic, you know, and we talk about self-care. We talk about a particular thing and we all kind of share something. And those are my favorite types of podcasts to listen to recently, so I want to
I was going to ask you that. So that's your preferred listening kind of podcast, or like?
I like them all. I listen to so many things. I love my influences have changed, and you can tell through, you know, I was really into long form comedy podcasts, which kind of made the trajectory of the show be super long because I was listening to a lot of Pete Holmes, who records these 2-hour conversations with other comedians, and I was very influenced by that maybe a year ago. And now, you know, I listen to a lot of Fresh Air. I listen to a lot, and I always have, and I listen to just a diverse group of podcasts. And so now I'm like, okay, maybe they don't need to be like 2-3 hours, but they definitely need to be more than an hour, because I think as soon as 45 minutes comes, we kind of get the momentum going, and then it's like, okay, and we're going to wrap. And I just think cutting it off inorganically like that never really floated my boat. So I'm just excited to try new things. I'm excited that I have this community of people who listen, and I am excited that the greatest thing that this has given me, podcasting, is it's really the new networking. I think it's allowed me to, from my apartment in Michigan, meet so many people that have become real life friends or mentors or people I just wanted to meet, or their work was meaningful to me in some way. And that, now that I meet people in person, that's even more so, because I think you can only make, there are good interviews that I did on Skype that I really liked, and I think were able to be a real connection for sure. However, I think an interaction with a person, building the relationship for myself, so anyone starting a podcast, there's something that happens in person where it's a bit more memorable. Like, I'm going to remember today a bit more than I'm going to remember last year when we recorded on Skype. Like, I'm going to remember that we had tea. I'm going to remember that Mike walked in halfway through. I'm going to remember that probably what the weather was like and maybe what I'm wearing. And I have no idea about those details when we recorded over Skype. And so I feel like you become more memorable to someone. Anyway, I've just been thinking a lot about podcasting, because I don't know if I sort of told you this. So I started doing podcast advising, which maybe people
I knew you were going to. I didn't know if you had started.
I started doing it a bit because out of the need of, like, I get so many emails of, like, what microphone do you use? How do you record in person? How do you record over Skype? Where do you host it? How do you do this? How do you do that? And so I started consulting with people just because I was getting so many emails, and I have zero time. And then after that, I spent January till now, and this is the first time I'm saying this on the podcast, working on a online workshop about podcasting.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's coming out. People can sign up now. In June.
When do you start in June? That's wonderful.
It's going to start in June. And I've never had a paid offering on the site other than my book, but I don't manage that. Like, it's just on Amazon or at Barnes & Noble. I've never had to manage that. Yeah. So this is the first paid thing that people can buy. And it's the price that, it's a lower price point than working with me one-on-one, obviously.
Because you have a group working together.
And it's 8 modules. So it's 8 weeks, I guess, but we're going to take 2 weeks off, so it'll be 10. And you'll love this. So Sacha and I met at the Hay House Writers Workshop, which I won. And the cool thing about that is they teach you how to write a book proposal, and they give you so much information. We honestly felt pretty overwhelmed.
Yeah, certainly.
But then the nice thing about it is there's this contest. So you actually have an incentive to take the information you learned and use it somewhat quickly. I think we had like 9 months, something like that.
Less even. I think it was we met in June around the solstice. And it was met in January.
So 6 months or something.
Yeah.
6 months. And then you have an opportunity. There were 3 prizes, and the top one got a publishing deal with Hay House, which was me. And then with this, I used that idea. So whoever, I'm going to give them 6 months to take all the information they learn in the 8 modules. And I interviewed 9 different podcasters, but now I'm going to keep adding to that, so it's going to be like 12 or 13. Yeah. And I had, Jess Lively, Jessica Mernan, the Being Boss podcast hosts, That's So Retrograde podcast hosts, people who host, it's all in the website, but I interviewed all these different people, and they totally opened the kimono and said everything that they do, all the equipment, sponsors, every single thing. And anyway, so that information, and then I interviewed an audio engineer and a dialect coach for speaking, and someone who works at Simplecast where I host this, and just so many things.
This is so good.
Thanks. And then sounds like an ad, but this is very organic. I'm just kind of like telling my friend who I haven't seen in a while about this thing I made. So anyway, so after they do the 8 modules, plus they'll get like 2 live calls with me, and there's worksheets that we made of like the exact email template that I send to reach out to guests that they can copy and paste, and an Excel tracker of like how I track the guests that I have on and who I want to have on, and sponsorships and technology and all of the things. And so they have all this information, and then the incentive to use it is that in 6 months or 9 months, or I haven't decided what the deadline is, they can all submit to me, whoever does the course, an episode of their podcast, and I'm going to air whoever wins on this podcast
That's
channel.
fantastic.
So then they come in with it. Do you think it'll be good?
Yes, absolutely.
I hope people do it.
I think they will.
I really hope so, because I worked so hard on it and honestly burnt myself out in March. So.
I mean, everybody seems to be wanting to do a podcast.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I'm in a coffee shop, I hear somebody talking about that
Really?
they're starting one or that they want to start one, and so I think that
you'll have
make
to
a little
flyer
or something. And leave it in coffee shops.
That's a good idea. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you guys want to start a podcast, definitely check it out. Honestly, even if I didn't make this, I would say that, because when I was starting my podcast, I had help. My boyfriend at the time was really good at technology, and he bought me my first microphone. He lived in San Francisco, and the Yeti microphone, he was like, you can only get this there. And I don't think that was true, but it was new back then in 2013, and he figured out the technology. He got me on Simplecast, which got me on iTunes, and figured out all of the things that I was too overwhelmed by, so I could focus on the content. And that's what I want to be for other people. Because if I didn't have him, I never would have started my podcast, because I would have been too overwhelmed by the specifics, and I would have just stopped. And that's why it's called Launchpod. A launch pad for your podcast.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That's
my
beautiful.
friend Carolina came up with that. Shout out to her. She has Freaky Healthy Chocolate, which is very good, and also a good name, so she's good at naming things. And it was her idea to make it a contest too. Yeah. Which I think
contests are good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets you, like, because I know I'd just be overwhelmed and be like, I'll do that someday, you know? So I don't know. Hopefully it'll be good, and it'll be a club, and there'll be a Facebook group just for the people going through that. And I'm really proud of it. My friend Laura made the website for it, which is really beautiful. I'll show you after. And
how many participants would you expect to have or hope to have?
I don't know. I hope anyone signs up. If no one signs up, you're gonna have to do it.
I'll sign up.
It'll be just you and I hanging out. I don't know. I worked really hard on it. I went to Detroit to record that. My friend Clay is an audio engineer, so I hired him to record the episode. So unlike my podcast, it's super polished and super edited, and I think
I saw photos of that.
Yeah,
right?
you did. Yeah. So that took a lot of time and energy, and it was a lot. So I'm excited about it. Yeah. So that's what I've been working on.
That's so good. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And I know that people are kind of curious about what your next things are for the podcast, and you're keeping that a bit of a secret until August. But are you thinking about different things with work and like branching off and doing your own thing? Is that all part of the
Well, yeah, it's been my goal forever. I think what's good is to not put the pressure on myself of I have to do it by this date. And that feels a lot cozier to me.
Yeah.
And I think I'll just leave it like coming soon. I think it's important to say, like, I have a full-time job and I do all of this on the side, which I've never really talked about too much on the podcast, just because, it's just not that interesting, I think, to talk about how busy you are and talk about how much, like, how little time I have. Like, I just think it's not that fun and interesting to talk about how busy we are. And I think sometimes we glorify busy.
Certainly, yeah.
And I don't think it's a badge of honor. If anything, it's something I'm not proud of, and I want to change. I want to have more white space. I want to figure out, a way to be less busy. But also at the same time, I make it work. It's a season. I think seasons are really important to talk about. Like, I'm in a really busy season right now, and so are you. And but we also know that we're going to rest at some point. Yeah. And maybe I don't know when that is exactly.
Well, maybe there needs to be, instead of thinking at this end goal of rest, is that there's rest periods all along.
And self-care sprinkled in. Yeah. Like, to me, this is self-care. Like, sitting here drinking tea with you, even though it's, I guess, sort of work for both of us, like, it's like the eye of the storm. Like, there's working and rest throughout all of we started the conversation of, like, how can we work in self-care even though you have a million weddings and so much happening in your life. You're still making time for your relationship, for yoga, for these things that are priorities in our life.
And trying to not do all those distracting things. I think that's a thing that we probably have in common is that there are so many distractions, and I am certainly not a linear person. I can't just sit at my desk and work for 8 hours. I don't work that way. So, I'm really distracted very, very easily. And it's like trying to not be distracted by things like Facebook, because that's kind of boring in a way. It's not, sure, like but it becomes boring, I think. So it's finding other ways to take a break.
Yeah.
Because I think I use Facebook sometimes as a break.
Yeah.
Away from what I'm doing, but it's better to get up and stretch or go for a walk or do some knitting.
For me it's Instagram. It's like, I think I heard the author, Dani Shapiro?
That name's incredibly familiar.
You would like her stuff. She wrote this book called Devotion that I really loved, but she's written a bunch of books. And she was saying that she used to be a smoker, and so she's a writer, obviously. But when she was a smoker, her cigarette breaks were a break. Like, she wasn't on her computer.
Yeah.
Where now her break is checking Facebook. And then she wrote this great essay. I'll try to find it, but she kind of followed her trajectory of a break, and it started at, she was writing and she needed a break, so she went to Facebook, and then she remembered that she hadn't paid her son's camp tuition. And so then she went to the email to find the camp tuition, and then she realized she needed to upload a photo of her son to the camp page, and then she had to go through all of her photos on her computer. She started to get really nostalgic, then she started to feel, and it was like this whole trajectory of like, that was a break? That's like work and feeling feelings, and like that was not a break.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Very familiar.
And for me, like, in those in-between moments, I'll start mindlessly scrolling on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And I've had a lot of interesting, and I'm glad that's something I've started to incorporate in every episode of the podcast, asking people about their relationship to social media and our phones in general.
Yeah.
There's a great book right now that I have on my list to read. It's called How to Break Up with Your Phone.
Okay.
And I haven't read it, but it's one of those things that even from the title, you're like, I need that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I find myself, it's okay to look at Instagram. It's okay to do that, but I don't want to do it unconsciously. And I've been finding a lot of people, like in the Adam J. Kurtz episode, he mentioned that a lot of people don't delete it from their phone and have someone else upload their stuff. Or, for me, it's fine. I just don't want to mindlessly scroll. I don't want to do it when I'm in line. I rather just look around, But I find that I often, like, what I do is I look at my phone, I first go to texts, and if I don't have any of those, I go to email, and then I, like, make sure everything's good there, and I go to Instagram, and it's like a whole nother inbox with my messages. It's scrolling, and it's just, and then I get into comparison, and sometimes it makes me feel great, and I see a lot of, expanders, and I see a lot of inspiration, and I see my friends, and it's lovely, but then other times it's just like, oh, I should do that too, or, oh, I forgot about that, or, oh, I should, and it doesn't make me feel good at the end. So if I can do it for like a set amount of time, or I can do it, when I'm like, okay, I need to go on here, I need to do this one thing, and then I can go and look at my friends, and I can like type in Sasha's name and go see what she's doing, instead of just like, plus with the algorithm too, you're not even, it's not even chronological.
Yeah.
So, and it's designed to make you want to stay. Like, these things are designed to make you care about numbers, and they're designed by engineers of our minds to change, like, they know our neurochemistry. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's a fascinating one.
Yeah.
Really
and we don't even know how these things are affecting our brains.
We don't. We know how they're affecting our postures.
Yeah. Tech neck.
Yeah,
we talked about that in some podcasts this year. Totally. And in the Lacey Phillips episode, which if people listen to that, she mentioned that in Silicon Valley, people are going back to flip phones because they know, like, how dangerous these are for it. Who knows? Yeah.
I've started a thing where I now have a business Instagram page for my weddings, and cool. It's and I'm very mindfully going to it once a day in the morning, adding a new picture a day, because I want to be on top of it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be sitting there scrolling all day. And it's actually really working.
Good.
Yeah. So I'll do a whole bunch of preparation ones ahead of time in one go, in one sitting, and then post them. And I'm doing them, like, I'm trying to make it look beautiful as well. So, so that's helping, and being away, and I don't have Facebook on my phone. So when we were away, I didn't look at my computer, so there was no Facebook. I almost need that. I need a complete pull away from it, so that then I'm like, oh, well, today it was easy to just check it once. But
do you ever use that app, Self-Control?
You've told me about that, and I haven't figured it out.
I'll help you. You just download it, and you can put any website you want. So if you can put Facebook, you can put Twitter, you can put whatever. You can put your email if you like were trying to write or something, and then you can say how long. So you can do 15 minutes to 5 hours or something, and you type in the password off your computer, and it won't let you go to. If you try to go to that website, it will say you can't.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
that's good. I should try that. Can you just do it for one day to test it out, or is it?
I don't even think it's paid. It's free.
No, I mean, or is it you do it and then that tells you that for the...
You can do it however many hours. Okay. Like you do it 15 minutes.
Okay,
only.
That's really good. Actually, yeah.
You could do it. That's what I usually do. Is
There's a podcast, you probably know it, Note to Self. You'd really love it.
Yeah.
She just did a whole series on women in their relationship with social media.
Cool.
I think you'd love the whole series. It's really,
I need to listen.
Cool. Yeah. But she had people just take things off their phone and have like a media fast, social media fast and stuff like that.
That's cool. Really I need to listen to that.
Yeah. I mean, Julia Cameron talked about that in the Artist Way, right? Like, but it was before social media. It was just a media break, so it included not even reading real books.
Yeah.
And now when I think about taking a social media break, it's like, well, I still want to read real books, like hold books in my hand, and I don't feel like that's
books
the same
are
thing.
media in the same way. No, I agree.
Yeah.
It's so interesting you brought up the Artist Way. I was kind of hoping you would.
Oh,
weirdly, but so it was the new moon on Saturday, I think.
Yeah. And
I just decided for no reason. I'd had a really stressful week last week when I fell and hurt my arm really bad, and I was gone for an entire week. I visited my friend in Boulder, and then I went to Columbus to visit Simi, and I had traveled basically all of March. I was traveling for work and a million things, and that was when I was in the hospital. So it was just like a lot the last couple months. And so I got back on Sunday night from Columbus with this hurt arm and just kind of like, okay, I think this is a signal I need more self-care. And so I decided I wrote a book on journaling, and I couldn't think of the last time I journaled. And so
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so I decided just on a whim. Oh, actually, my friend Christine, who did the podcast, who's the YouTuber, she was turning 30 in March, in March, and so she decided to do 30 days vlogging, and it was really interesting for her. It like brought up a lot of creativity. It was hard. It was a really big challenge to do something every single day for 30 days. And she was like, I recommend that to committing to that, to not forever, but for anyone with their art. I think a friend of hers was doing it with music, where he was going to write a song for 30 days every single day just to do it. And he's not going to do that forever. But and so that I was hearing that, and I was like, oh, I would love to do something like that. And so I was like, I'm going to commit to morning pages for 30 days. The actual way, not, I've dabbled with like
750 words.
Or just like I'll do it for whatever time I have, or I'll write for 10 minutes or something. But I'm actually I have a legal pad, front front, for 30 days. And again, I don't know. That was Sunday, but I've done it every morning since then. And today's Thursday.
Good.
So thank you.
It's funny. It really is funny how we're kind of in sync about a lot of things. But this morning I woke up and wrote by hand, which I haven't done for a long time.
I've been doing it on my computer a lot more.
And I was doing that too. I was following 750 words, and I got to something like 248 days, and then I missed a day. And I was so mad because I'd been going for the badge, and then I just haven't written since then. Yeah. So I picked up, it wasn't really that intentional, but I just started writing about how, after having such anxiety dreams, about what I need to do to maintain a sense of calm and balance and not get this kind of sleepless nights. And one of the things that came up in my writing was how much I appreciated the time when I first did The Artist Way. And it was...
When was that?
It I realised it was actually shortly after the book came out. I didn't realise at the time because it seemed like it had been out for a while. But
when was that?
It was, I think the book came out in the mid-90s, and this was about 99 that I did it. And I think that it was about, I'm maybe slightly off, but I feel like it was the first time I'd been living in this apartment with no roommates. Cool. Like, it was the first time I was here alone. And I had this lovely ritual. I just woke up every morning. I had a cat, and I would get up and make myself a pot of coffee on this Italian stovetop coffee thing, which I don't do anymore, but
Firewater now.
Now it's firewater. But I would get up,
recipe
do that, and then get back into bed with my notebook and my cat. Cool. And it was just so beautiful, and write. And I would go way past the 3 pages or the 20 minutes, and it was so amazing. And it opened up such a lot for me.
Yeah.
And I was kind of felt myself this morning craving exactly that. So it's funny that you are doing that.
Yeah, and we both had the anxiety dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's for dreams in particular. Nicole from Splendid Spoon has inspired me a lot with dreams and like working with your dreams and thinking about your dreams, and just she has such an interesting perspective around that. So I find that really helpful, like talking about my dreams and writing about them. And if I don't do it first thing in the morning, they're gone. Mm-hmm. So that's usually how it starts if I'm doing the morning pages first thing in the morning. And I've been trying to do them more first thing in the morning, or this week it's just worked out that way because usually or often I've been like going to a class in the morning, but I haven't been able to because of my arm.
Oh, right.
Which
Which arm is it?
Left, thank
okay.
God.
Yeah.
So that's actually, maybe it's a time where like I need to slow down a bit, and I don't know.
What does Louise Hay say about the arm? Have you looked
I
her
need
up?
to look at that. I should look at that. I know left side is like masculine side, right? And it's like
I always have to do a little
something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I should look that up. But anyway, so
left brain though. Left brain is more masculine, I think. So
right
side but it's the left side of your body, so that's the opposite.
Mm. Yeah, and anyway, We'll look it up. Unclear.
Someone's listening going, they're wrong.
Yeah, someone will tweet at us. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I'm taking this as like, okay, it's about to be my birthday in a couple of weeks, and maybe it's just a time where I need to slow down a bit, and I have a lot of anxiety actually about my arm. Like, I hope it heals. If anyone knows anything about the radius bone on your arm and how to heal your arm, I'm like, oh, everything that's been in my body that's been a pain has healed, mostly. Like, I still have pain in my knee. That's, like, a thing that I'm probably going to have, and it's fine. But everything else that I've been worried about not going away has gone away, And I guess it's just, there's always that anxiety of, I hope that this heals, and it will, but... So it's kind of funny to see with the morning pages, like, it starts out kind of talking about my dreams, and then it kind of talks about my anxieties, wherever my anxiety's pooling that day. Typically it's like, my body, either like a body image thing, or like lately it's the will my arm ever heal thing, and then it's, usually like a relationship thing of some sort of like, does this person that didn't text me back, do they hate me? Or like my actual like romantic relationship, or and then it kind of swirls to be a work thing of some sort, and then it's a creativity issue, and then once that's done, that's about one page, you start to get to like a little bit deeper layer of how I'm actually feeling and where my emotions are, and then after that it's like creative idea, remembering something that I wanted to do, and it really is beautiful to kind of see yourself self-soothe as you go down the page. And Julia Cameron knew a thing or two with that exercise. There's an exercise in my book, the first one, it's called the morning dump, right? And it's essentially like has you do morning pages and then asks you a couple questions that make it a bit more guided, which I like. Maybe we could all do that together. Like, everyone wants to commit to 30 days. Like, I have a leg up because I've been doing it for 4 days now. But, I don't know.
Yeah,
if we want to do that as a group. Yeah,
I like that.
Why not? And if you miss a day, don't beat yourself up.
Right.
Because I'm probably going to miss a couple. It's fine.
For a few years I would do like whatever birthday I was coming to, I would count back the days before and do that many days of self-care. So like 40 days before 40 and things like that. And
I love that.
So you could do, I don't know, you could do it springboard from 27
today.
for a while. It's, I don't know how many days to your birthday now. 2 weeks, is it?
Something like that.
So, but you could.
So I'll do a few
I don't know.
later.
I mean,
later.
I like things like little themes that you make up yourself, and it doesn't really matter what they are, what number it is, but you commit to 9 days of whatever it is. It's really
okay. I'm gonna do that now. At least the days till my birthday.
Yeah,
a self-care thing every day.
Yeah, and then I was thinking about the physical act of handwriting is a really important thing for nowadays, where we're just kind of using our thumbs and posture and all this stuff. I think it's a really good thing to just do something that's not screen related first thing in the morning. Yeah,
I agree. I had been, when I got to the wing where I work from our coffee shop, I would write. I have a big document in my computer, just a Word document that I put the date and where I am and the time, and I just go back to it every once in a while, and it's really long and robust, even though I start it again every single year. And that's where I was doing a lot of my journaling, and it is nice to have that cataloged somewhere for some reason, even though I don't really go back to my writing, but it is nice to have that there. But I think there is something to that hand to paper movement, and it slows you down more. Like, I'm a really fast typer, so
exactly, same.
It slows me enough to slow my thoughts down. Even when, like, today I was kind of in a rush. I didn't have a lot of time. Nick is here, and I just have like a lot going, so I was like, should I even be doing this? But having that thought and writing that thought down was slowing me down. Or when I'm meditating, sometimes I can see the thoughts go boom, 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 but it doesn't slow them down. Where journaling, it forces you to slow them down. If you're handwriting, if I'm typing, it doesn't. But I'm actually like following the thoughts and just actually writing them down, which is, I don't know why, I don't know the science, but it has to be good for us, right? To slow that down.
Yeah. I felt really nourished from my morning scribbling this morning. And it
clarity. It's self-awareness and clarity that I gain from it, that I think I don't really get from anything quite like that. I came out from today's session with a list of things I wanted to talk about with different people in my life, things I hadn't thought about, or just ideas. I have this list that I'm gonna bring to dinner with Nick after this, and just that I would never have brought up with him because I just didn't have the awareness I'm moving so quick that I didn't even think of, you know, or I wouldn't even realize or remember. And it just, that slowing down is so helpful, especially when you have a lot on your plate.
Yeah. You just reminded me, I recently purchased this gift for Mike and I forget the name of it, but it's a Dutch company, and it's a game. It's called a game, but it's really just conversation starters.
Oh my god, I want it!
And it's cool. Each card has a question that you ask your partner.
Cool.
There's one for a group of people as well, but this one is specifically for a partner, and it's.
Will you send me the thing?
I will, and we just got it, so we just did it very casually recently, but it was. There's ways of saying what do you think that I would say about this and things like that.
I'm so excited
and it's so nice because it's just, first of all, there's no screen, and it's just in relationship, especially when established relationships, it's very easy to get into talking about stuff and things, and
did you do the trash? And
and so it's just a really lovely thing. Cool. And I haven't yet delved into it that much, but I just love the idea of it.
I think we talked about this. Did you guys do the New York Times 21? It was in a New York Times thing. It's 21 questions to make anyone fall in love.
Oh yeah.
So there was this modern love essay that came out years ago, and I'll try to find it and put the link in the show notes. But essentially, maybe you remember it better than I do, but there was a scientist who figured out, or claimed to figure out the 21, I don't even know if that's the number, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
20 some, or maybe it's more than that, questions that if people go through, it makes anyone fall in love. And anyway, this Modern Love column came out as a podcast episode when Nick and I first started dating. And we hadn't said I love you yet. It was maybe like a month in or something. We both listened to it and we were like, we should do these questions. Let's do the questions, whatever. It'll be funny. It'll be fun. But it took us forever because we would do one and then we would talk about it forever. And I was kind of rationing them too because I thought the big payoff was like, oh, he's gonna tell me he loves me like after these. And I remember going to LA to visit my friend Amanda, and she and her boyfriend were like, oh my God, like, how's it going? The new guy, because they had met him early on, like, before they moved. And I was like, yeah, it's great. And they're like, did you say I love you yet? And I was like, no, but, like, it's scheduled to happen as soon as we finish these questions. And it's so funny, because we hadn't finished the questions, and I remember him, like, saying he loved me, and obviously it was, like, the most amazing moment, and I think I was, like, sweaty, because it was just, like, you get butterflies, and it was, like, so great. But there was part of me that was like, oh, shoot, with the questions. Like, we haven't finished the questions yet. Like, I was looking forward to the... And I asked him about it, and he was like, oh, I never even thought of that. Like, I never thought of doing the question. Like, that was going to be when we said I love you. Because I was like, I thought we both were, like, going to do the last question, and then I was just going to be standing there, like, the movie, and then it would happen. So, yeah. So, and then the way it happened was, like, we were just, like, lying in bed, and just, like, happened, like, organically, which was better, but in my mind, it was, like, it just speaks to me and, like, my, like, neuroses.
I really love that.
Yeah. But everyone should do those if they haven't, just because they're fun conversation starters.
Thank you for reminding me about that. I married a couple once who did those early on in their relationship. I don't think they'd even really hardly started dating.
Yeah.
They did that, and it's like, it's lovely.
It was
I
cool.
give my couples questionnaires to fill out, and they're sending them to me, but they're sitting there doing them separately, and they're not sharing their answers with one another, and it's always so interesting to get the perspective on how they met, how they fell in love, and oftentimes the date, even the actual physical date, is different from one and the other, and then what they did is completely different, and
that's so cool.
It's so good.
I love that so much. I love that. Yeah, there's Cheryl Miller Hauser, who did the podcast. She made the documentary about Detroit.
That was a lovely one.
Yeah, she's great. Her son made an app that just launched this winter, and we had dinner one night this winter, and she told me, she's like, oh yeah, my son made this app. The launch party's this weekend in Brooklyn if you want to go. And I was like, oh cool, what's the app? I was just like, oh, I'll support her son. And she's like, it's called The Entertainment. We think it's based off of the Infinite Jest, like, reference, because Nick is always reading that amazing massive book, and there's like something in there called the actual whatever. I'm not going to get into Infinite Jest, which I haven't read, and would take us the entire podcast, but it's a reference to the title, but it's a conversation starter game, or it's not a game, it's just a ton of questions, but they're all in different categories. I'll show you on my phone. It is on a screen, but it sounds kind of similar to, it's for groups, it's for anything, but there's funny ones, there's serious ones. We've been doing it when we were in Arizona. We had a lot of long car rides, and we were doing it, and it was so much fun. Because as soon as we finished the New York Times questions, we were just like, we need more of these. These are so fun. And it's so fun to go to dinner. I've been doing another thing now where I've kept on my iPhone in the notes section little documents. And one of them is we have this thing we call with each other Pod Club, where it's basically, it started off with things I learned in podcasts that week that I wanted to tell him about, and him vice versa. And so I'd be like, I got this one. There's so many podcasts, like, you do This American Life this week, I'll do Fresh Air, we'll chat about it at dinner, you know?
I love that.
Yeah, which is great. And it's fun because it's like we're talking about something that's not, about logistics of, like, when's your ticket getting in? Okay, I'll pick, whatever. Yeah. It's actually talking about the world and then reacting to it, and it's fun. And now I keep this document. It's evolved, not just podcasts, but like something I read in a book, something I overheard in a coffee shop, something Sacha told me, something, whatever I want to tell him, because if I just earmark it for myself, I'll forget, and then at dinner we end up just talking about, like, what's happening directly in front of us. And so that's been nice. And then I'll also put in their questions, like just things I'm curious about, and it's been really great. And so I started doing it. I did it for my mom, and I think it's a great thing to do for our parents. Of every time I feel like I'm with my parents, I just end up talking about really surface level things, and maybe it's not like that for everyone, or maybe people who see their parents more, it's not like that for everyone, of like, how's your job, you know, what's this, and you know, I feel like it was, for a while, it was like the same few questions with my mom. It was like, what's your email, how's your insurance, like, you know, like a few like things. How's your laundry? Like, do you have any stains you need help with? You know, I don't know. And instead of just talking about those things, I was like, I wrote down some questions that, like, things I'm curious about her history, about what it was like when she was younger. Or I wrote down just this one funny thing that happened to me in my childhood that only she would understand. And, you know, recently when I was with her, I brought it up, and it was such a delight to laugh about it, because only we don't have that much, you know, in common, maybe from, you know, as some people do with their parents, but this thing we could just sit and laugh about, you know, and it was a delight. And so I highly recommend that in your iPhone, because it's something you always have with you. So when you're actually with the person, you'll have it, and
wherever you write some notes or something
in the notes section. And I have one of, like, it's literally called Questions for Mom, Questions for Nick, things to tell Nick, things to tell Mom, like, and I've done it for other friends now too, where it's just like, you know, I'll probably have one for you, like, I'm not going to see you for a while, and I also make a point, speaking of friendship, I think it's really good when I think of someone, I'm trying now to text them right away.
I do that too.
Yeah.
Or send a postcard. I can really into mail.
And you're really good. I love that, like, so Sasha listens to the podcast, and she's the best about that. You send me it through text, the emoji.
Yeah, I don't know where else to put it, actually.
Which makes me so happy. You're the only listener who does that. Not many have my number, but, well, actually, anyone can. I'm not going to say it here, but anyway.
I feel like if I were to post the emoji somewhere else, then someone else could just cheat and copy.
That's true. Okay, great. So that's great. Anyway, so Sasha always texts me the emoji, and it's great because I can be like, what do you think of that one? And we have this little, you know, and it's nice, and I know that you're thinking of me, and so I'm trying to, like, if I see something that makes me think of you, I send you a photo, or I do that right away. And I think having this in my phone is kind of the same way of when I think of it right away, especially like with Nick, it's like, I don't want to, I'm in between calls for work, or I have to get to a meeting, or I have to record a podcast, and I think of this deep question to ask him. I'm not going to text him that right then. I want to, like, save that for when we, like, are out to dinner or on a walk or something, or on the phone, you know, even because we're long distance. But if I don't write it in my phone, I'll forget it, and then we're on the phone or whatever. And sometimes we're on a conversation, and I don't want to go there. I don't want to, like, have the deep thing. But sometimes I do, and I'm happy to have the option. I'm not forgetting it. I'm putting it somewhere. So that's been, like, the best thing that I've thought of for myself. It's almost creative in a way, because it's like I can be on the subway listening to something on a podcast, and I can transcribe it. So it helps. I learn kind of by teaching, you know? So if I learn something on a podcast, it will help me remember better, and it will infiltrate my life more if I share it with you and talk to you about it.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So that's been helpful. I really like that. It's, like, probably the best thing I've done for myself this year.
I love that. Yeah. It's that, and the game that I was describing in the 21 questions and this app. They feel like really nice response to the screen time only, and only communicating via screens and stuff. It's a return to a deeper conversation,
which is like bringing it back to podcasting. It's like, why is this such a welcomed phenomenon? It's not new technology. It's actually quite old. I did a lot of research for this Launchpad course, where, you know, podcasting has been around actually for a long time, and really it's just talk radio, which has been around since the 1920s.
Right, which everybody thought was going to die at some point. Yeah.
But I think we're starved for, not for conversation, but for conversation intimacy. And I think what we get in life is these little pockets of, you know, surface level conversations,
like
soundbite type conversations, and we're craving this, you know, what we're having right now, hopefully, and what I have hopefully on the podcast, and what I'll take as listeners when I can't have intimacy myself. I almost get a hit of that by hearing other people have a deep conversation, and I hear someone else talk about their childhood. It's like, oh, maybe I could bring that up with my loved one, or my, like, you know, friend, or maybe I could go there with someone because I heard somebody else. It, like, kind of is an expander to know that that's an option to talk about or to consider in yourself. It kind of can be your mirror to be like, whenever I'm listening to a long form conversation and someone's talking about something in their childhood, it's intuitive to question, oh, what was that like for me? Did I ever have anything similar? Oh, mine is really different than that. That's interesting as well. It forces us to like see ourselves in them. It's interesting.
I listen to podcasts like all day. I could just back to back listen to them when I'm not writing. Like I'll just do that walking around, doing pottery, whatever, and I love it so much. And sometimes I listen to them on 1.5 speed, so I can speed more, include more.
I know.
It's great. But I love Desert Island Discs, which I know I've shared with you, and just Kirsty Young.
We gotta do that.
Oh, Kirsty Young is such a great interviewer. She's just... And I cry at all of them, and I just become so deeply emotionally involved with them. And one of the things that I think about when she talks about, could you handle being on a desert island? Mm-hmm. And I actually like being alone. I'm pretty good with my own time and stuff. However, if I couldn't have podcasts to listen to, I don't know if I really would like it that much.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Yeah. Like when I met Nick, we like bonded over podcasts, and he said, I think this is like a quote of his mom's or something, but he was like, I don't trust people who don't listen to podcasts. And I can say this here because everyone listening listens to podcasts, so it's not like offensive. But I think if you maybe say that in the world, perhaps it is. But I don't know. Maybe I agree. And I don't know why I brought that up. I guess it's just, it's a welcomed phenomenon, and I don't know. I just love podcasts. I think it's good to be alone with your thoughts too. I find that sometimes there's nothing like walking around New York City listening to music either. Like I also really enjoy that. Mm-hmm. I listen to podcasts a lot more, but sometimes I'm just like, there's so many options and I want to listen to so many that I just have to turn them off and listen to music, and that's been good for me too. And
I've had almost the opposite. Like really? I can't figure out what I want to listen to music-wise, and there's so much to podcasts to listen to. And I have so many podcasts that I'm subscribed to, so they just kind of run into each other. And
I think sometimes, and you don't have this for sure, but I will have to concentrate on where I'm going, and music is easier for that because I'll get distracted in a podcast. Of like if I'm like trying to figure out like, oh, am I uptown, downtown? Like music's better because I'll miss something in the podcast and I'll have to go back. But what I've done a little bit, and I want to have more time to do this because it's been the most nourishing thing for me, is I'll do the opposite of the 1.5, which I also do sometimes. But I'll do a half where they sound like they're drunk, which is really fun. And I've been taking notes. Okay. So I've been like kind of annotating them, I guess. You've
mentioned that, taking notes, and I love that idea. I just tend to be doing physically active.
And usually I am too. And if it's a conversation like the one we're having right now, like I don't think people need to be taking notes on this one by any means. But every once in a while, I'll have a podcast where I'm learning so much, or I'm just... And sometimes that's just on the subway writing stuff in my notes section for Pod Club with Nick, or, just to have quotes that I like that I maybe want to share that are helpful to me. But every once in a while, I'll sit with my notebook and a cup of tea and just... I did this, like, I had a really long Lyft line ride in LA, and I was stuck in traffic forever, and I was getting car sick if I read, so I listened and I kind of annotated things that I wanted to remember more, because it's like the same thing. It helps me learn. That's like how I would learn things, So I don't know. It's interesting.
I like, when I'm studying Spanish too, I like to write the words down as well as listening and saying, like, I feel like there's something extra that you get from the hand to page kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. This is funny. We're kind of touching a lot of like, we brought it back to handwriting, like Julia Cameron and the podcast. It's all... Yeah.
Do you keep a notebook in when you walk around, or is it more phone stuff?
I always have one with me when I walk around, but I don't know. I don't like pulling it out on the subway. It's harder, so I'll just use my phone if I'm like wanting to write something on the go. But I usually I always have like one notebook at a time. That's my notebook. Yeah. And then, I'll cycle through those because they go pretty quick, especially if I'm doing morning pages.
I know you were into audiobooks for a while. Are you still there, or are you back with the reading? I know you tend to go back and forth.
I do both.
Yeah.
I do both. I like audiobooks because I love listening while I'm walking. Like there's something about, especially when I'm trying to figure out where I'm going, and that's been, I really like this audio. I'm listening to one right now, and I'm also kind of reading it. It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Have you read that?
No.
By Dr. Joe Dispenza. Maybe he's not a doctor. Unclear. Joe Dispenza.
Maybe he has a PhD.
Maybe. Anyway, Joe Dispenza. And it was so funny how this book came up for me. A couple people, when I was in LA in March, my friend Val, who's done the podcast, recommended it. My friend Misty recommended it. And they were just like, you have to read this book. You have to read this book. And they really made a case for it. And I was like really excited to start it. And then I went home. I got home and I was back in New York, and I looked and I had the book, and I had already bought it. Like, I don't know when, but I already had it on audio and in person.
Oh.
It was very bizarre. I didn't know that I had it. Like, I didn't even recognize it. So that was kind of cool and bizarre. So I started listening to that, and I really enjoyed taking notes on that, and then kind of sharing what I learned in real time with Nick has been great, because it's a book that he would just never read. Like, it's not his cup of tea, but I can kind of tell him stuff from it, and he's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I can get behind that. And it's not that he needs to validate it, but it's just fun for me to teach someone what I'm learning, because I'm excited, and he does the same for me.
And it helps it go in more into your brain if you're telling about it.
And he does the same for me with, like, whatever he's reading or listening to. I like learning from him. I'm like, I'm not going to read Infinite Jest. It's just, like, not something I want to do, but I like knowing what it's about and hearing about it from you,
I've gotten like that with The New Yorker. I used to read it, but I just don't have time to read it anymore.
Yeah.
All the articles are so long, and Mike reads it, and he sort of fills
That's great.
me in the...
Yeah, there's only so much. There's a lot more content now than there used
So
to
much
be.
more content, yeah.
So we need to help each other out here.
Yeah. Even just walking around Barnes and Noble, I'll just be overwhelmed because I want to read every book. I know. But there's just not time.
I know, but we're going to die.
Exactly. It's funny when you were talking about... kind of having all this recorded content of your conversations and stuff. My best friend Sally and I, when we were very, very young, talked about, like, I remember I for some reason this conversation stuck in my head, but we were like, imagine if you filmed your whole life, and then we'd be like, imagine how long that would take to watch. And just like leg slappingly thought that was so hilarious. But it is true. It's like, when do you get to actually like take it all in? It is like Boyhood, yeah. Like,
yeah, you should just have
the
Richard
highlights.
Linklater make a movie of your life.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna look at my notes.
All right, maybe we do some quick fires and then save the rest for 29. Well, 28. I'm turning 28.
I'm actually very curious about your dinner party idea, because every time you ask that question, I was like, oh, I know who I would have. And
really,
like
I want to know who yours.
Well, and then it changes all the time.
Yeah.
But the only two consistent people who would be at that table, no matter what, who are the other guests are, and you ask people for 5, and I say, well, I'm having 10. But Kirsty Young, who's the host of Desert Island Discs, has to be there, and Keris Matthews, she is a Welsh musician she was in a band called Catatonia in the 90s, but I love her Sunday radio show. She's a DJ. I just love her voice, and so those two would be there. But who would be at yours? Like, or does that change for you?
I don't know. Did we do this one last year? I don't remember if
I don't
we
think
did.
we did.
I don't think we did. Yeah. So I wish that I could sit and think about that. But this is good. We'll just do this one every year, and I bet it'll change every year, or maybe it won't. But
mine changes all the time.
Yeah, I would definitely want Terry Gross. Mm-hmm. She's kind of like
she comes on my list sometimes.
Yeah, I love her. I really love Tavi Gevinson. I think that she would be great, and I would love to hear from her. I'd want you there, and I'm not just saying that because you're across from me. I really would. And
you want all the people who've been on your podcast?
Yeah, well, most of them. No, I would really want you there. I would want. I'd want Nick there. Just he's like really good with talking to people and like making me feel less awkward. So I would just want him there. And it'd just be easier because I'd want to tell him about it after, and I'd just be frustrated that I'm not able to explain it that well. So that would be part of it. Oh, I thought of someone. Oh, I would really want Oh, who was it? I just thought of someone who... Oh, Alanis Morissette.
Okay.
I'd really want... I just think she's really interesting, and I would like her to be there. Who else? Maybe someone that I don't know, that I've never met before. That would be kind of fun, right?
Do you ever think about people who are no longer alive? I sometimes go to that.
Yeah. Someone who's... Who do I really love from history that... There's so many people. This is hard. That's who came to mind first today. We'll leave it at that.
No, it's the impossible question. It's like on Desert Island Discs, the 8 songs that you would take.
Yeah,
it's an impossible question.
I tried to do that. Like last year, I wrote mine down just for fun. Yeah. We should do that when we do your episode. Let's do it with each other. I just think it'd be fun.
Yeah, because I find that it's less about the actual songs, but they're little springboards into why you chose those songs.
Yeah, let's do that like this summer, fall, or
that'd be great.
Winter when you think so. Maybe we do like one like kind of light quick fire for each of us.
Okay.
What is the best thing that you've eaten in the last week?
Oh my gosh. Well, we went 2 nights in a row to this little tiny Peruvian restaurant in Costa Rica.
What's Peruvian food like?
Oh, this was so good. I don't know if it's typical or not, but it was a tiny, just outdoor space. It was, the kitchen was, I don't know if it was actually an Airstream, but it was that kind of environment where the cooks are there on display, and a few outdoor tables. And partly, I think this is true with any amazing meal, but this is not a quick fire answer, is it?
That's perfect. This is perfect.
I think it's who you're with and how you feel and all of that stuff. But this food was exquisite, and they did this vegetarian ceviche with... Oh, I mean, it had broccoli, and it had hearts of palm, and it had lots of onion and
good.
So much lime, and it was exquisite. So we had that 2 nights in a row.
That sounds so good.
Everything else there was good, but I can't describe it.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that. How about you?
I had a really good meal last night with Nick. We went out to dinner in the West Village because he had a portfolio review in the West Village. I'll tell you about it. It was good. But the one I really want to highlight is because of the company and the all of that, which was so good. I went to Colorado for the first time when I was there last week, and I was with my best friend Amanda, and she's the closest thing I have to a sibling, and it was just her and I. And we sat outside because it was really warm, but it wasn't that warm. We sat by a fire outside, so we literally had fireside chat. And it was this beautiful restaurant called... Oh, shoot. I should plug it here. It was called Shine.
Okay.
I think. No. Yeah, Shine. I think it was called Shine in Boulder, Colorado. And... it was lovely, and they have these potions, like they make these like wellnessy tonic type potions, and they did mine warm for me, and I think hers was called Bubbles or something, and I think hers maybe had kombucha in it or something, so we drank those, and then we just sat for hours, and we had sweet potato fries that we dipped in like some sort of sauce that was really lovely, and I had a flight of sauerkrauts, basically, like one was kimchi, one had spice, one didn't, and that was lovely, and we had these sweet potato fries that were really good, a side of vegetables that was just really good, and it wasn't really even about the food, it was just like nourishing, and I had just been to a yoga class right before, and she picked me up, and it just felt great. We talked about everything, we caught up on everything, and there's something about visiting a friend you haven't seen in a while where, you know, we talk on the phone every once in a while, we voice text a lot, which Nick and I do, which I think is great, but it's kind of like a personalized podcast for each other. But there's something about when you are staying with someone for those, it's like we don't have to get it all in, like we could get it kind of in pockets, and then at that dinner we just kind of like filled in all the gaps of everything, and it was just a really, really lovely time. And while I was there, she cooked for me, and she's my favorite person to cook for me. You and her, actually, because she's just kind of intuitive with what she makes, and it's all really wellnessy. She makes these cookies that are so good. It's like a almond butter situation. Wow. Very good.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing too about like visiting dear friends.
They'll cook for you.
Well, no, not the cook part, but just that you don't have to
get it all
cram
in.
it all in.
Yeah, I had that. That's it. Gosh, I've had a lot of good meals in the last week. I also went to visit Simi, my dear friend who's done the podcast too, and she cooked for me. Oh, she made these. You've actually made this for me before. We had bowls. So she made quinoa, and then she roasted some vegetables, and then she made like a tahini avocado sauce that we put drizzled on it, and we put some nutritional yeast on there, and it was like...
She made it more formally a bowl than I do. I'm just like, it's a bowl with food in it.
Yeah, exactly. But that was so good. And then one night we got tacos, and that was also fun. So
yeah.
Anyway,
cool.
Yeah, a lot of good meals.
I can't think of any quick fire questions. You're going to have to be the supplier of them, I guess.
I think that we can end it
That's
there,
good, yeah.
unless there's anything you think of.
Well, I can tell you that I just finished an amazing book.
Oh, okay,
and
good.
I loved it so much, and it's called...
Yeah, because I mentioned the book. So.
If Nobody Speaks of Remarkable Things. And I will get it because I've got to remember the author's name.
Good. Okay.
It's so beautiful. My friend Sally.
Oh, we were just talking about Sally.
Sally and I have known each other since
Where does she live?
1984. She lives just outside of London in St Albans. Cool. John McGregor is the author. If Nobody Speaks of Remarkable Things. Is
it a novel?
It's a novel.
Cool.
It's really beautiful. Would you like to borrow it?
Yeah.
It's really...
I'm not going to take it today because I'm going to take it next time I see you.
Okay.
Because I know I'm not going to read it today.
Yeah, I didn't want it to end, but I also read it really quickly, so I had a day and a half without a book to read on vacation. It was just the writing style is exquisite, and just
you rationed it. I've done that with books.
I didn't ration it enough.
Yeah,
it was so good.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So they got free podcast, and they've got 2 book recommendations at least.
Yeah,
a couple, people talking for a while, and hopefully this was fun for people. I love that this is a tradition that we're doing.
Yeah.
I think this is good. I think it will, for me, it's just a scrapbook of, selfishly, I think it's a good check-in. It's kind of like the state of the podcast for Let It Out, where I can kind of talk about the changes that have happened in the last year and the trajectory of what's coming up. And I think the biggest thing is I'm so happy that I have stuck with something this long. I'm really proud of that, but also that I've evolved and changed, and I love the new theme music.
Yeah.
And I love the new album cover. It just feels so much more me, where the other one just, like we were saying.
It's you for a chapter. And then
exactly. Like I changed so much in these past few years that I needed, these elements of the podcast to reflect that, and what I'm changing in August will be even more so reflective of where I am now, and I'm just excited. I think change is maybe uncomfortable, but doesn't have to be, and maybe scary, but doesn't have to be, and mostly excitement and fear are the same thing, right? There's like that tweet, that cheesy quote that I think it's like excitement or fear is just an excitement without breathing.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
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 I would say that they kind of like they're on the same line and they feel the same, but if you can just breathe into the belly butterflies and turn it into excitement. I like to say that. But.
And it's kind of the same. Someone said once, I think it was Danielle Laporte, she said that why be overwhelmed when you can just be whelmed?
I know. We were talking about how many words you don't use the other like overwhelmed, we don't use whelmed. There's a lot of words like that you only use the one version. I'm gonna just whenever uncouth. We never say couth.
Couth, right? Yeah.
Because couth would be a compliment, I guess, if uncouth is not.
Right. I'm gonna start saying you're so couth, and I'm gonna start saying whenever I want to say I'm so overwhelmed, I'm just gonna be I'm so whelmed.
Right.
I'm gonna start saying that. Let's do that.
Right, because people do say underwhelmed, so that's whelmed
true.
is like the right in the middle. That's like a good place to be.
I guess it's not true that I'm whelmed. I'm overwhelmed, but I don't want to be, so I'm going to just...
But it's a work in progress, that one.
Yeah. All right, anything else anything else we need to let out? Did we let it out?
I think we let it out. I think let's do more returning to paper and pen, and I will say that I feel much more comfortable in this conversation than a year ago, because I was sort of feeling like fear of being the interviewer last time. I was very nervous. And we were also over Skype.
Yeah,
and
I was also very ill.
You were ill. It was my first time, and I was really nervous. And I do like this way of doing it where I haven't looked at the microphone, so I kind of forget that it's there. So
it's you know really what's funny about this is I'm glad that we were not in person last year, because you did the interview in the style of how I was doing them, which was much more directed, much more you planning and having the questions and directing it, and not in person. And then this year, as soon as I started recording in person, I look at my notes a lot less because I'm making eye contact, and there's a lot more to think about. So the conversation organically became more, less directed, less questionnaire, and more conversation. Yeah. And you did that this year because of. Yeah, so you did the style that I've been doing it in.
Exactly.
So next year, who knows what you'll be doing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. You can mirror it after, what the podcast has been each year.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah, definitely.
All right,
and for the people who had questions, I think we've covered them without being very specific.
Yeah.
But I think we've covered them.
And if they have more, put them in the Facebook group. I'll answer them.
Yeah.
And we'll do it. We'll do this again next year, and we'll have Sacha on again, because we're due for a you conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So put questions for her too in the Facebook group. She's in there. All right. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Okay, that was my episode with me and Sacha. If you like this episode, please subscribe and rate the show. Share it with a friend. Maybe leave a review. That would be a nice birthday present if you would like to give me one, and join the listener Facebook group. And Sacha has done the podcast, so that episode is in the show notes, and she's doing her monthly or quarterly, she does these cleanses. I'm not exactly sure how often she does them, but they're wonderful, and they're not actually cleanses in the traditional word that you would think about cleansing. They're really about nourishing yourself, and she will explain all of that. The link is in the show notes to that too. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. The emoji for this week's episode is, what is it?
We didn't plan this. Birthday cake?
The birthday cake.
Yeah. Cake? Yeah. Do that one.
The birthday cake.
Yeah.
Okay. Send us that. Comment it on our Instagram. I'm at Katie Dalebout. Talk to you next week. Love you. Bye. This episode is brought to you in part by something I use and love called Acuity Scheduling. It's like a personal assistant for your schedule, only better. With Acuity Scheduling, people can quickly view your calendar in real time, and from your availability, select the date and time that works best for them to meet with you. They can even pay in advance if they're booking a session with you, and they can cancel or reschedule on their own without having to clog your inbox. With Acuity, you can instantly schedule with real-time availability, meaning no double bookings and no more wasted time. You can set up automatic confirmations and reminders, and what I love most is that you can customize the colors and add your logo. Everything looks super sharp. To try it out, you can get an extended 45-day trial when you sign up totally for free at acuityscheduling.com/letitout. To get that 45-day free trial, go to acuityscheduling/letitout. This week's episode is supported by something called Fit Fab Fun. It's a seasonal subscription box with full-size beauty, fitness, fashion, and lifestyle products. It retails for $49.99, but has a value for over $200. I don't even know how they do that, but that's amazing. And if you use the coupon code LETITOUT, that's Let It Out, you can get $10 off your first box, which you'll find at www.fitfabfun.com. I think it's a really interesting concept. It's really cool. This Fit Fab Fun box feels like Christmas 4 times a year when it comes in the mail, and the products include everything from makeup to candles, accessories, self-care products like a massage roller, travel products, beauty finds. It's really great, and you can customize the products, add on what you want each season. It's different and it's a surprise. And the thing that I really love is the membership also includes access to Fit Fab Fun TV, which has a variety of workouts and meditations that you can do anywhere. And I love that because I love to do workout videos at home. I think it's so much fun, and I really like Fit Fab Fun, and I think you guys will too. Just check it out. Again, you can get $10 off your first box by using the code LETITOUT at checkout. That's Let It Out. And the items include everything from Tarte Makeup, which is a natural makeup line I like, Juice Beauty, which you know I also really love. There's so many great things in there. It's really fun, and I think you guys will really like it. Thanks, Fit Fab Fun. The music you're hearing behind me now and all other original music in this episode is composed by Carolyn Pennypacker Riggs. The album art is by artist Zoe Harmon, and this podcast is produced and edited by Amanda Sharf and hosted by me, Katie Dalebout. Check out our website for show notes to everything mentioned.